Jen, Priya, hello.
Hi.
During this time, hi. And cheers, by the way, everyone watching, if you we're all having a nice glass of wine. I've got this beautiful Malivore Gamay from Niagara Falls region, the Niagara wine region.
Such a good choice.
Thank you. I actually discovered this vineyard on your website, the Social Herbivore. So everyone, that's a socialherbivore.co, and it has an amazing and comprehensive list of wineries in Ontario and in Canada that are vegan and organic and all of that good stuff as well. So please do check it out. I certainly did, and I've discovered a new lovely late summer sipper. So food, wine. Why does hosting and sharing food and companionship matter more now than ever? So I hope this will inspire us to reach out and share life's simple pleasures and get through this difficult time. But for Priya and Jen, hosting and sharing food and companionship, why does that matter so much to you? Why is it so meaningful?
Well, I guess I'll start off. I mean, obviously, right now we have all been through the ringer with the last 18 months and COVID, which just kind of blindsided all of us. And we spent so much time by ourselves or on Zoom, of course, and we weren't able to share those meals. And we all know that when we are able to come together, the food tastes better, the wine tastes better, and the conversation is better. It's just very enriching to be together and to have that experience and have great conversation over the dinner table.
Yeah, and I think for us, like we've been working on this book for 3 years, but COVID was sort of a double-edged sword in that it gave us the time to focus on just getting her done and getting it out to the world. But it did also reinforce the fact that it's not fun to be on your own all the time. And even if it's not about hosting other people, even if it's just about hosting your own family, it's about making everyday moments special and not waiting for what we call special occasions to either make fabulous food or bring out that good bottle of wine, and just about really recognizing that anytime you can break bread with people that you care about or new friends, it's important and it is special.
Yeah, and you can make it special by really fancy food or a great bottle of wine, but it doesn't have to be that, right? It's just a little bit of thought, a little bit of care put into it, goes a long way. And I think it goes a long way too into your enjoying eating something we have to do. And so when we slow it down and we bring more thoughtfulness to it, I really do think, your body responds in a very positive way to that. And it's just good for the soul.
And that's why we actually broke the book down into conversation kind of sections: small talk, big talk, and sweet talk, because it really is about creating moments around the dinner table with really great food and wine pairings, which has not been done for vegan food before. So this is the first time that you're seeing a book or a concentrated place where we're focusing purely on wine pairings for plant-based food. And Jen's the only master som in the world who is kind of using her passion for this area. But it really is about creating those special moments and reactions that you only hear about with, red meat and red wine, and that's a magical pairing, or white wine with this cheese. You don't really hear about those great pairings when it comes to plant-based food. So that's
Right.
kind of why we wrote the book.
Amazing. It's like white wine and fish, right? Which isn't not necessarily true, but I definitely thank you both so much for sharing. I think that, it's a common experience for us the last year and a half. My people closest to me, my loved ones, matter more than ever. And the simple pleasures, no matter what's going on in the world, of being able to sit down with them and show them love and connect with them over a simple meal and a glass of wine have been just my North Star as well, and kept me going, and sustained me, and still hopefully will as we head into the fall. And we can't control what's around us, but we certainly can invite our friends and family in and enjoy each other and break bread. So thank you for that. And there's a question that I've heard often, and I'm sure both of you have as well. And that question is, isn't all wine vegan? Isn't it just grape juice? You know, what do you mean by vegan wine? Would you like to share with our audience a little bit about what does and does not make wine vegan?
Yeah, number one question we get asked, really.
Yeah, exactly. I never really put a lot of thought into it too, but then, it dawned on me at one point, well, if you're using, fish bladders or blood or egg whites to fine or filter a wine, for example, well, then that's not really vegan, right? So in its simplest form, what we find is that most folks who are concerned with it being a vegan wine are most concerned about what's in the bottle, right? So of course it can go further into what was the glue used for packaging, the ink, is beeswax used on the top, are animals used in the vineyard as labor? You can take it to a whole winery perspective, but for the most part, most people are concerned is just what's in the glass. So have they used animal products in sweetening the wine or in fining and filtering the wine, right? Or have they used vegan friendly alternatives, which there are lots as well. Yeah.
Most definitely. And just a quick off the cuff question, why would a winery select an animal product to finish the wine? And what are the vegan alternatives?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, think about it historically, right? It would just be what's on the farm. So if you live by the ocean, it might be, you can use the fish, right? Because fining and filtering is really clearing the wine and kind of pulling out all the sediment and particles and everything. So you have a nice clear wine and stuff like that. So you would use what was around the farm. And now we know that, we can use pea protein to get, similar results, or membranes that are made out of plastic, for example, right? To filter the wine, or even just time. Yeah. Just leaving the wine alone with time, right? And so it mostly comes up in the fining and filtering of wine. It does come up in a few other areas as well. If they're trying to adjust tannins, sometimes they'll use an animal product, but that's where it comes from. It just comes from whatever was available.
Although if you look at something like natural wine, which now is becoming so popular, that is a good example of a wine that's not filtered and fine because it's a little cloudy when you look at it. So most people traditionally didn't want a cloudy looking wine, and now that's just kind of become trendy. Yeah. So at least you will know that all natural wine is vegan friendly. So if you're stuck in a pinch, you can go natural.
That's such a pro tip. Thank you so much, Priya. And thank you, Jen, for explaining that. People are often shocked when I describe fining and fish bladders. What are you talking about? So for those who, might be new to the idea of finishing wine with these byproducts that may be found in the environment, that was really helpful. Another question that I get all the time, and I'm sure you do, is, I'll demonstrate. It's kind of like, tastes like wine, tastes like red. So I guess this question is for you, Jen. What are we tasting for? What just a very quick, maybe the fundamentals of tasting, and any tips you might have for us as a master sommelier, which is, by the way, everyone, look it up. There's a documentary on Netflix. It's extraordinary designation.
Yeah, so basically we're looking for, again, this can get really complex and really fun, but in a nutshell, we're smelling the wine first and foremost to make sure that it's clean, meaning it doesn't smell like wet cardboard, therefore it could have a lot of cork taint on it, for example, or smells like nail polish remover, could be. So things can happen to a wine. It's a natural product. So the first and foremost, we're just checking, is it clean or not? Okay, check that box. After that, you really want to move the wine around in the glass. And while this looks like a little bit snobby, it's actually not, because what you're doing is you're volatilizing all of the aromas in the glass because you're putting oxygen into them, right? And so that just helps bring up those aromas for you to smell. And your sense of smell is so important here to your enjoyment, because you can smell over 10,000 things, but you can really only taste 5 or 6. So it's
Wow,
all
it's
coming from you.
extraordinary.
So that's why that swirl and those sniffs are really important. So when you go to smell a wine, you just really want to take it all in. And then of course you go ahead and you taste it. And what we're looking for is a couple of things. First of all, you want that wine to taste like the variety it is. For example, if you have a varietal wine. So right now we're drinking Riesling from BC, which is amazing. And you're drinking
Nice.
Gamay from Ontario.
That's right.
You want that wine to actually taste like that grape variety, right? It's a good representation of a Gamay or a Riesling, which in both cases these are. And then the other thing that we're hoping for is a sense of terroir, so a sense of place.
Right.
That when you taste that Gamay, it tastes like an Ontario Gamay, versus if you had one from France, from Beaujolais right beside it, you know, and being able to pick up and taste these differences of different climate and geology and geography is really, really cool. And so, yeah, we're hoping that the wine tastes like the place it's from.
And that's the super cool thing about somebody like Jen, who for some to advance in the sommelier world, you have to be able to blind taste a wine. So she would have to taste this wine without knowing what it is, and then be able to identify, first of all, what the varietal is, roughly what the vintage year is, where it's from in the world, and alcohol, things like that, and then price point. So it's amazing the level of information and knowledge that you have to become even a sommelier, let alone a master somm who has to
exactly
all of that,
Exactly.
So,
it's extraordinary, and it takes a lot of time and skill and dedication as well, because you have to taste a lot to be able to blindly say, that's France, that's this region, that's this side of the hill, that's this year, all of these notes. I mean, my goodness, it's pretty extraordinary. I think it's super, super neat. And again, lots of resources out there for folks that would like to learn more about tasting. And maybe after this conversation, I'll ask Jen if she has any references. I'm sure the Social Herbivore has some resources on the website available for all of us as well. So the next question I have for both of you: why does pairing food and wine matter? The next question is, to what we were discussing before: red wine with steak, white wine with fish, rosé in the summer, etc. Why does pairing matter?
I would say, from my perspective, like as a consumer who doesn't know much about wine, to me it matters if it matters. If it doesn't matter to you, like if you don't care, then it's not a big thing. If you like wine and you like food and you notice that, oh, when I'm having that really spicy Thai food and I'm drinking that really strong Malbec, I don't know, somehow it's not really working in my mouth, then it matters. But otherwise, a lot of people just drink whatever they drink because it's not about that. But for us, it's about creating that perfect blend of flavors. So I think I'll let Jen take it from there.
Awesome.
Yeah, exactly. Like Priya said, the one thing we definitely don't want is the food tastes worse and the wine tastes worse, right? Like that's what you're not going for, and that can
absolutely.
And then sometimes, unfortunately, you're just like, I don't really like that wine. I used to think that I hated champagne because my grandmother would serve it with sweet chocolate cake at the end of the meal. And of course, the champagne was bone dry. And the cake was sweet, sugary sweet. And so for many, many, many years, because we used to have it as kids as a little treat, right, on holidays. And it took me, years of actually being in the wine profession. And I had an aha moment with it where I had a perfect pairing. It was tempura. So tempura and sparkling, and it just worked. And I was like, oh my gosh, I do like sparkling wine. It is good. Because, so sometimes you just have this bad experience. So that's what we're trying not to happen, but then take it a couple of steps further. And when dishes and wine actually really work well, they actually balance each other off and complement each other. And what happens is that the wine tastes better and the food tastes better, literally. So you kind of have this taste explosion when you
Right.
get it right. And that's really fun when that happens. And once that happens, you want it to happen again and again and again with food and wine, right, at your meal, because it just makes it a little bit more magical. So yeah, that's kind of what we're going for.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And, I think we can all recollect the first time that pairing really slapped, as the the kids would say, just really slapped. And
Is that
we're
what the
like,
kids are
wow.
saying nowadays? That's new to me.
It really, yeah, I think it means it just really it just hit well. It was delicious.
I like that saying. Okay.
Right, it slapped. Yeah. So we were having a conversation with Kimberly Carroll, and one of the questions, people kept saying the word tea, and my colleague here was like, "What does tea mean?" And then it was like, "Oh, it's gossip." And then we talked about RuPaul's Drag Race, But to get back to this conversation, I'd love to talk to you about the season. We're in September, and the harvest season is upon us, not just for grapes, not just for wine, but for food as well. So, having you two here and your expertise, I've got to ask, selfishly, what are you, which wineries or vintages, like this is the 2021 vintage, but are there any wineries or varietals or, any insider tips that you're really excited for, that, maybe are doing really well, the grapes are maturing beautifully, and it could be a really great harvest? Any tips for us?
We do a series on Instagram on Monday nights where we've been talking to different winemakers in Ontario. And so we've had the chance to talk to winemakers from both Niagara and Prince Edward County. So those are our two bigger wine regions here in Ontario. And earlier on in the season, I remember talking to Keith Tyers from Class and Chase, and he said it was shaping up to be a fabulous vintage, super hot in the daytimes and cool in the night times, just the right amount of rain. It was amazing. Then we were in the county in mid-August, and we were talking to a winemaker at, I can't remember where we went. At another winery, the one where he was talking about the two Pinots side by side.
Kente.
At Kente, yeah. And he said that, there was just a lot of rain in the later part of the season. So
it's been a rainy summer.
Yeah, because mold and rot and all of that. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting how this season turns out.
Yeah, hopefully a nice, long, dry, sunny fall. I think that would make the winemakers really, really happy. But, with all the rain that we're having, there's a lot of considerations because, mold and all of those funguses and everything just thrive in that, right? And then, if you're trying to be organic or sustainable, then you're kind of, having to look at the viability of your grapes, in a situation like that. So here's hoping that we're going to have a good season. I was in BC earlier this summer, actually, I guess back in July.
This one is from.
Yeah.
And awesome.
Yeah, this is a Tantalus. They're amazing. They're really, really great boutique winery just outside of Kelowna in BC. But we're having a totally different scenario where they were having, of course, all of these fires and smoke and everything. So it's very interesting because, as we all know, climate change affects agriculture, but with wines being vintage dated and then going into a bottle, you can really see what the climate was in that particular year.